Hey everybody, Stu Smith here going live. Going to take some questions today as well as show some combat swimmer stroke uh, videos and critique them as well. But first, as we wait on people to come aboard, I did finish that article I mentioned yesterday about not letting instructors or any person get into your head and make you doubt yourself and your dreams and goals and whatever future successes you may have. And there are people out there like that. They may not be the buds instructor, for instance, or whatever selection you are going through, may not just be that person, right? That person is there to do a job to test you in every possible way if you want to do this job for real. They want to see if when your will is tested, how do you react? However, throughout life, you may have had experiences with family or friends and coaches and teachers who may have used negative feedback in a way to do one of two things. Sometimes it can make you used to handling negative feedback. Like, for instance, my daughter did ballet for 15 years, and some of her ballet instructors were hard and constantly fixing little things. Attention to detail was so important. And when you do things that require such attention to detail to get them perfect, and to a point where you never are perfect, you learn to handle these negative feedback loops that occur throughout life. So I've had it through coaching, whether it was wrestling and learning a new move, or baseball, learning a new technique or form, or football, just learning a new play and practicing it over and over till we got it right, constantly screwing it up until we got it right. Those are very valuable points in life, and it can come from all types of activities. It doesn't have to be athletics. It can be band. You hit the wrong note at the wrong time, you'll probably hear some negative feedback. But anyway, this article is finished. I put it a link um, into the description below, but I'll put it in here in the comments section as well, just for you to take a look at later. It's pretty good. It's basically focusing on that moment when you get singled out for whatever reason. It could be failing an event, it could be um, not pulling your weight in certain activities like under a log or a boat, or falling out of a run. Whatever it is that you did not perform to standard that day, you will probably get some feedback from an instructor. And if you don't hear it the first time, they'll probably use the megaphone inches from your face just to make sure you receive the message loud and clear that you are screwing up, and we notice that you are screwing up and you are not meeting the standard to what we want you to meet the standard. So you have two things to do at that moment. One, you can correct that deficiency, get a little tougher, suck it up, bring your A game, and finish the evolution, and they'll leave you alone because you didn't collapse and fall apart. You actually dug in a little deeper, and that's all they wanted to see. They just wanted to see you get a little tougher and finish that evolution. Um, you can, maybe it's a technique issue that you need to practice on the weekends or something. Maybe it's swimming, maybe it's an obstacle at the obstacle course, something that requires just a little more work. Because here's the problem: once you're at selection, it's really difficult to get faster or stronger. About all you can do is learn some technique to get better. Maybe it's better at treading, whatever. You're not going to get in better shape. You just don't have time to do that. So you just have to get tougher. And that's how you corrected the deficiency, quite honestly. Now the other one The other option is that you fail to improve, you start doubting yourself, and you believe the instructor, and you let that instructor live in your head rent free until there's really no option that you can logically consider other than quitting or not improving and just failing out to not meet the standard. And unfortunately, a majority of people, when you're going through very challenging assessments and selections, have that reaction to the negative feedback that they're experiencing. And this really, these two options you have right there determine, quite frankly, is this a dream or is this just a pipe dream for you? Right? Because let's face it, if someone can talk you out of something you've been dreaming to do and training to do for years, you may not have really wanted it bad enough. So that's okay too, right? I mean, I had the same situation. After I got out, I was considering going to medical school. And then I started putting everything together and realizing I got to take all these classes just so I can qualify to take the test to let me get into medical school. And that was going to take a couple more years. And then, I looked at it. I was like, well, maybe I don't want to be a doctor as bad as this next 8 years is going to test me. Um, that was something that I had to redirect and figure out something else that I wanted to do. So, there's nothing wrong with facing that reality of like, maybe this isn't for me. So don't feel bad if that has been you in the past. I don't feel bad that I'm not a doctor. Do I wish I had the commitment to uh, want to push that? Sure. But in hindsight, I'm pretty happy where I am now. So it all kind of worked out. So yeah. Anyway, read this article. It's pretty good. There's some other articles in here too about failing and, rebuilding, picking yourself back up. There's some cool comments in here too, because I posted this on social media last night. Got some comments from buds instructors and students alike, that I put it into the article this morning just because they had some really good points on top of it as well. And this, it's got some good follow-up articles in there too. So check that out. It's up on stewsmithfitness.com. Click the articles link in the navigation, either drop down window on your phone or horizontal navigation line banner on your desktop, and just check it out. It's a good one. It's probably one of my favorites in the last few months. Okay, let's take some questions and then we'll do some CSS stuff. Mikkel says, I know you probably question you hear often. When do you think one should cut down the strength training? If we're talking numbers and exercises, what's a good base to have? Basically, he's asking, should he focus less on weights? Here's the problem. Because it depends. It depends on, are you weak and do you need strength training? So, if you need strength training, you should definitely do a strength cycle so you get a little stronger prior to going on this selection journey. However, you also need to maintain your calisthenics and cardio if those are up to speed. So my suggestion would be do kind of a block periodization model where, if you're just trying to maintain some strength, you can do a 3-to-1 block periodization model. However, if you're also strong and big, I would probably not do the block periodization model and just do a big calisthenics and cardio training cycle and skip the weights. Especially if you're, let's say, 250, former powerlifting football player, you need to get down to, 205. I would definitely probably not do the weightlifting. However, if you're a hard gainer, weigh a buck 75 and have been lifting for a while and you have to lift in order to stay at 175, you may want to eat a little more, still work on your calisthenics and cardio, but maybe mix in some block periodization model where you can still maintain your cals and cardio, but maintain your build your strength if needed. In like something like this, the block periodization model we do for fall and winter, or you can do the block periodization model that we're doing now, where we go 3 weeks calisthenics and cardio, focusing on endurance and muscle stamina, 1 week of a deload from that, but you focus on your strength. That's a great way to maintain your strength without getting too big. But it really depends on where you are on your assessments of yourself. Are you strong? Are you fast? Can you crush PSTs? Can you do longer runs, swims, and rucks to a good pace? You have to assess where your strengths and weaknesses are. And if your strengths are because you are strong, I wouldn't say you needed strength training. If you are weak and you can't do a body weight bench press or body weight and a half deadlift or squat, you probably need to get under a barbell more. We all come about this with different issues. So you need to turn any weakness you may have into more of a strength. And that may require a strength cycle, may require a calisthenics and cardio cycle, may require a mix of both if you're feeling pretty solid with one, but not the other. So that's always a great question. A lot of people screw that up and they just continue lifting. Next thing you know, they just keep getting bigger and not getting faster. It doesn't mix very well for what you need to get to the training, but at the same time, you also need to up the game with cals and cardio in order to get through the training as well. So Luke asks, and people are wanting to hear this answer, it appears, how would you spend your time during Bud's prep on the weekends? What would you prioritize? Well, here's the deal. You can mix in some good cardio. I would definitely work on some 4-mile timed runs. I'd work on some ocean swims, just work on your guiding, keep your ankles loose. But it also depends on how much running you're doing during the week. If you're running 25, 30 miles a week already, and it's pretty decent pace, you probably don't need to add a 4-mile timed run on the weekends. But it just really kind of depends on where you are on your running cycle. And as long as you're not hurting, I would do that. I actually wrote an article about this, and I will put it into the let me see. Where did I put it? I think it was on military.com, and it was pretty recently too. So dang it. Can't remember what it's called during prep. Let's see. Yeah, I got a couple different ones here. Let me see. Adding workouts during prep phase. Stu Smith. There you go. It's on StuSmithFitness.com. So wrote this big article here, adding workouts to Spec War prep or rollback recycle training. And just gives you some guidelines on everything that you should be doing. Because really, the goal is to be fully recovered when you get into first phase. Check out this article. It gives you a lot of information on recovery, flexibility, mobility, and really, to be honest with you, if there's something that you need to work on, technique, treading water, maybe even running. If your running sucks, have somebody look at you running, and make sure you are running smoothly, um, efficiently. Same with swimming. Um, improve your conditioning. You can improve your conditioning in a few weeks that there are, um, that there is time to do that during prep, especially if it's a 6 to 8 week long prep phase. You may want to add in some more cardio. However, if you're running a lot, you may want to add in more non-impact cardio, and do like I call the triathlon method, where 2/3 of your cardio are non-impact cardio, and running being a third of that if you need to add running. So, or some other form of cardio. And it really depends on your miles per week. I put something in there on miles per week, swimming and pool skills, uh, high rep calisthenics, and even secondary lifts if you need them. But for the most part, you're not going to improve significantly during a prep phase. So really your goal is to focus on recovery so you can go into the actual training well rested, recovered, not broken because you did too much during prep. Um, that is my suggestion. But I would also on weekends get out, go hang out downtown, go get a lot of food. There's some great, um, local restaurants, at least I'm talking about in California. Uh, Eat big burritos and milkshakes and just get some extra calories in you just so you can handle some of the extra work that you are now being required to do. So, unless you need to lose weight, obviously. Let's keep on moving. If that answers your question, if you got others a little more specific, let me know because that one can go a lot of places. Um, what's your opinion on work capacity training? Is there an ideal way to train this as opposed to endurance? Well, the way we do it is we just don't rest a lot. Our rest is literally cardio. Or if we really need to rest, we'll rest with some form of ab exercise like crunches or flutter kicks or something. Just to lay horizontal, your heart rate will start slowing down a little faster because you're horizontal. You can do some ab work, just to kind of catch your breath if you need to. But pretty much you're constantly moving. One of my favorites is um, a burpee or pull up pyramid. You can do push-ups too if you don't like burpees, but burpees are just hard. Um, so what we do is we get this outdoor pull-up bars over at the Naval Academy where we use them, and we'll do them other outdoor pull-up bars too. But this is just one of my classic big field pull-up bar workouts where you do one pull-up, you run 50 meters, or bear crawl, or lunge, or some other activity to get to and from. You can make it harder every set, maybe every odd set. You have to do something easy, harder than running. So you run 50 meters and do one burpee. You run back, do two pull ups, run back, two burpees, three, three, four, four, five, six. You'll work your way up and, adding in harder things than running throughout the process. And that is just one of my favorites to help people understand that sometimes you can actually rest by jogging or rest by doing some other activity that works a different muscle group. And once you can do that and do workouts that last an hour, hour and a half without having to stop and rest for 5 minutes here and there, you're starting to work. You're starting to get better at your work capacity, which is really muscle stamina and endurance. So we tend to mix muscle stamina exercises with endurance exercises. So think cardio and calisthenics, for instance. I actually wrote a work capacity article and I linked it to, there's actually a work capacity test that they use in the wildland fire service. You know, guys that are out packing water and carrying it up hills and doing all that stuff. So let me see if I can find it. It's over on military.com, and also did one on durability, because I think if you look at what you really need in these situations, you need durability and you also need work capacity. Work capacity is a function of muscle stamina and endurance, and durability is a function of strength with mobility and flexibility added. So just think of that when you are thinking of training. About 182, 19 years old, ultra running background, average swimmer, good rucking, can bench 95 kilograms, deadlift 160 kilograms. Yeah, that's not bad. 22 pull-ups. Yeah, I would say that's strong enough. You know, especially if you can handle the rucking. You know, depends on your height too. You know, what is your height for that 180? I would assume you're probably pretty tall and lean, coming from an ultra uh, running background. But it won't hurt you to keep lifting. And the reason why I say that um, is just because of your endurance capability. Probably a natural weakness for you is strength. So whatever you can do to maintain your strength, I would do, and I would probably, as you get closer to your selection, it's going to be really focusing on running, rucking, swimming, and a lot of calisthenics. There's not a whole lot of lifting in these selection programs. However, your load bearing will require you having had some strength training prior to that, just so you are durable enough to handle it. My suggestion is, you know, the block periodization models, and that way you can, you know, focus on your calisthenics and cardio and maintain your strength, or focus on your strength and maintain your calisthenics and cardio, whichever one you need to do. Great questions today. Hey Stu, I can swim 25 meter or yards underwater with a nose clip, but without the nose clip, I can only go 12 yards. You know what? I don't know how to answer this question. I really don't. My suggestion is learn how to swim with goggles versus a mask. Most of these swims are going to be done either with a mask or without a mask. It depends on the group that you are training for. But I would tell you that you just got to get used to figuring out what mammalian reflex allows you to move your tongue over your mouth or whatever, slightly blow out, but don't blow out your nose, so you create a positive pressure in there so water doesn't go up it. I don't know. I can't put that to words, to be honest with you. You just need to get underwater and kind of figure it out. Yeah, there may be someone more eloquent than I am about that bodily function. I just don't understand how to explain it. I can do it, and I've seen people have a hard time doing it, and I don't know how to say, this is what you do with your mouth and nose and sinuses to keep that from happening. I just don't have an answer. So my suggestion would keep on Googling. Maybe you'll find something. Okay, one question and then we'll do a CSS video. In fact, let me pull those up now. so we can get on it. Okay. Not sure which one this one is, but we will have it ready to go whenever I answer this question. How would you recommend transferring from pool swimming to ocean swimming? Um, well, my recommendation is when you do ocean swimming, swim parallel to the beach versus swimming straight out and coming back, because you never know what currents are going to be out there that'll take you miles out to sea or miles away. Just swim just past the breakers and parallel to the shore. You might even be able to stand, you know, for most part. In fact, when we swim open water here in Maryland, it's literally 4 feet deep where we're swimming and just past the breakers. And, you know, it's really safe. I will say this though, there's usually a current that's pushing you one way and then a current that's pushing against you the other way back. And that is when you realize that's why you have fins on. And the bigger fins, the big rocket fins and jet fins, those really can handle that kind of current. The smaller slip-on snorkel fins that are really flimsy, they it's really hard to move in the water with that kind. You almost have to go freestyle in order to get through the that current or tide. Um, but yeah, and then every fifth or 10th stroke, you want to come up and look where you're going. And it can be very subtle. It can be just a quick little, side eye peek that makes sure you're going in the right direction. You should see a buoy out there, or if you don't have a buoy system, just look to see if there's a pier behind it or a building. Maybe the beach curves a little bit and you got some water towers or buildings that you just try to stay straight on. Other than that, as long as the beach is straight, um, just swim at a certain distance from the beach, so you keep looking at the beach the whole time when you're swimming one way. And then when you come back, you swim on the other side so you can keep looking at the beach and just maintain that distance. And if you can, just stay right behind the breakers, and that should be a pretty straight line if you're on a straight beach. If you're on a curved beach, you're going to swim like a banana. So I don't recommend doing that. It's just going to add distance to you. So you want to swim straight lines. That's the biggest thing. Swimming straight lines in open water is tough if you don't realize you have a natural tendency to swim in a big circle. I remember we had one of our first time. I warned all the guys about this, and the guy didn't look up for like 20 strokes, and he was literally 90 degrees from where he was supposed to be going. So within 20 strokes, he went from this way to swimming this way, and it was heading out in the bay. So it was pretty funny. He finally looked around and didn't recognize anything. It was a pretty funny moment. He's probably about 200 yards out where he could have been 30 yards out before he, started getting over his head. All right, let's see. Oh yeah, I said I was going to do a CSS critique. Let me share my screen here. Show this. I'm not sure which one this one is. It might be pretty good, might not be. All right, so top arm, bottom arm, kick, 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, pull. Yes, it's good. This is going to be like a 50-second pace CSS. So top arm, bottom arm, 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, pull. Yeah, he's right on time. Not overly, not super efficient, but it's not inefficient either. Like you see where he comes up here, he's already got 2 strokes before this thing. If he could take a little more advantage of that wall and do this, but this is good. He's got the sequence of the stroke down, the timing of the stroke down. He's a relatively shorter swimmer, but there's no reason why he can't do an 820 with this right there. All he needs to do is do that 9 more times, and he's got himself an 820 swim. He just comes up a little too early. He doesn't do the breaststroke pullout. Nothing wrong with that. You don't have to do a breaststroke pullout. In fact, there have been some instructors that are saying you can't do a breaststroke pullout. You got to go right into the stroke. So my suggestion is when you have that situation, just get a really hard kick off the wall with a great streamline and see if you can still come up. Like if he just held that glide just a little longer, give him a 2 more second glide. He probably gets a body length that later and comes up a little closer to this as he transitions into a stroke. But I'm being very nitpicky on that one. That's actually really good. All right, let's see. Next question. Having issues completing the full sequence after kicking off the wall. Once I kick off the wall, it feels like my lungs are on fire. And is that CO2 tolerance issue or a conditioning problem? It is strictly a conditioning problem. In fact, I wrote an article especially for you because I see this all the time. In fact, there's several other things too that are in here from, after 50 yards, I can barely breathe. I lose my technique. Can't do the 50-50. Seems I get winded after I kick off the wall. Can't do a double arm pull, breaststroke pull out. I have my pace down, but I lose it about halfway through the swim, and I drop to 60 seconds per 50 instead of 50 seconds per 50. And there's a couple others in there too. But my answer to that comment is, dude, you're not in swimming shape. And that is the name of this article. Name of this article is, dude, you're not in swimming shape. So it gives you a free workout in that article called the 50-50 that I highly recommend you starting to add to your training. You can either replace it, and if you're doing other programs like this, because I put a few 50-50s in here, probably going to update it soon and add more to that workout. Yeah, there's some hundreds in here. Definitely a little bit harder. This is like phase 2 and 3, so it's going to be a little bit harder than the 50-50 workouts. But yeah, start off with the 50-50 and go from there. Yeah. Can't hurt my feelings. I used to hold the flashlight for my dad. That's a good one. Been there myself. How is runner's stomach needing to hit the toilet ASAP mid-run, handling during training at Buds? Well, I crapped my pants twice at Buds and just cleaned it out after the 4-mile timed run was done and moved on to the next evolution. So luckily, there's a big ocean right there. You can just take off your pants and do a little laundry and move on to the next evolution. So it happens. What are you going to do? Hopefully you will be able to, use the restrooms before you go for their 4-mile timed run. Most of us try to do that because we know it's coming. And, there's not much you can do. If you feel it coming and you couldn't get it out prior to the run, it will probably come out during the run. Can't let it affect you. Just move on. Just another day. All right. So let's do another CSS critique. So I think I posted this one up on Instagram yesterday. And it's a 50-50. In fact, remember me talking about the 50-50 workout? This is it. So it starts off with hard freestyle. You can see he's kicking hard. He's pulling his arms pretty well. Something I would recommend though is doing a little more of a freestyle catch, grabbing a little more water way out in front and pulling a little more. I mean, he's not slow. He's definitely putting out for this, and that's what you want to do. You want to get winded during the 50 freestyle, and without rest, you go right into the CSS. In fact, let's time his CSS here after about a 35-second 50 freestyle. So this is pretty good. So we got a top arm, bottom arm, kick, Let's see if holds the glide. 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi. Pull. Nice. Yeah, he's doing well. And you'll see too, as you get winded from that freestyle, it's hard to hold these glides because you feel like you would rather breathe like that. He came up a little early on that double arm pull. Probably could have glided another body length and a half before he came up, but he probably needed to breathe. Nothing wrong with that. It will get better as you do this 50-50 workout. But yeah, this should be about a 48 second 40, which is really good. I mean, that pace right there, if he could string 9 more of those together, is an 8 flat. And that's about where he is, I think, with this with his swim, somewhere between 8 and 8:30. So, yeah, that's a really good 50-50 set right there. And so what we do is we'll warm up with a 500-meter swim or a 10-minute tread, whichever one you want to warm up with. Then we'll do 10 50-50s, so it's 1,000 yards. And then we will cool down with whatever we didn't warm up with. So if you warmed up with a 500-meter swim, you cool down with a 10-minute tread, or vice versa. So you're going to get 1,500 meters swim workout in, and I promise you, you do enough 1,500-meter swim workouts in a week, your 500 will be easy, and you'll be able to crush that 500. You'll be able to kick off the wall and not feel like you need to breathe immediately. You will now be in swimming shape to handle any 500-yard or 500-meter test that the military can throw at you. But you got to do that 50-50 4 to 5 times a week. I've seen guys come in, we cleaned up their stroke. They were swimming like 10, 20, somewhere around there, 10:30s. And within 3 to 4 weeks, they were swimming 8:20 to 8 flat, um, just by doing that 50-50 5 times a week. After every workout, they would swim for 20, 30 minutes and get those 50-50 sets in. In 16 days, I'm doing a 100-kilometer walk race. Fun little challenge. That's a long distance. What would you recommend I use as nutrition? I'm thinking electrolyte, bread, chocolate spread, bananas, salt tab. But yeah, that's all good. My suggestion is whatever you can stomach is what you need to eat. So my biggest suggestion is don't do anything new because somebody suggested it. Do what you normally do on really long, hard workouts. You're taking a gamble by doing new pieces of food or supplements or whatever, goos or proteins or carbs. Sometimes that doesn't agree with you, and next thing you know, you're either you got a crap or you got to throw up, um, and that's not going to help you with your racing event at all. So do things that you already know work well for you. And practice. I'd say the next 16 days, practice eating those things and going for, walk jogs and seeing how you handle it. Um, when you are tired, uh, you know, work out really hard, try eating what you're, do your normal workouts and then eat all of this stuff um, after and just see how your stomach handles it. Maybe walk it off for 20 or 30 minutes after you eat it just to see if you can digest it well enough while still moving, because that's the big challenge. But really good. I know I can probably walk that in my sleep, but would be a lot of fun not having a bad time because of nutrition. Yeah, absolutely. Hydration, electrolytes are probably your number one and number two importance, just because you can become a heat casualty really easy without them. But um, you also need carbohydrates for energy, some protein, but not a lot. Especially depending on how hard you're moving. If you're not really breathing that hard, you could probably add in some fats in there and use that as energy source if you have a low enough heart rate throughout this event. Let's see. How would you program swimming if only doing breaststroke? Let's say about 3 times a week for an average swimmer. Yeah, I would say the same as the 50-50. Just take out the CSS and replace it with breaststroke. So the goal is hit that free really hard so you get winded. Then you go into the CSS or the breaststroke so you can, kind of catch your breath with your testing stroke is what I'm looking for people to do. And that's a good way to get into swimming shape. What do you think about tracking heart rate rather than pace? Oh, yeah, absolutely. Do both, one or the other. It's up to you. I've done both and I've kind of learned like after a while, you do it for a while, you'll realize, your heart rate without even having to look at your watch or even, do one of these numbers. You'll say, because of the way I'm breathing and how I feel right now, my heart rate is at 160, right? Or higher because I'm really putting out my heart rate's at 180. So, um, yeah, I think they're great for learning that pace and that rhythm that comes with certain levels of performance. Like you should know your walking heart rate, you should know your walking heart rate and pace, you should know your rucking heart rate and pace, you should know your jogging, you should know your running, you should know sprinting, for certain distances where your heart rate is. So there's many different ways you can use that strategically in different events depending on what you are training for. So, absolutely. Yeah, if you're doing 6-minute mile intervals, great. Add a slow long distance too if you want, and if that's too many miles for you on your legs, consider making that long distance run of the week a nice steady bike, but do it at the same heart rate that you would be long slow distance running. So that may be a little faster on the bike in order to get your heart rate up to that long slow distance jog heart rate. You can still train your heart and your cardio base with some non-impact cardio activities if you need to do that. Most runners don't need to do that, but a lot of people who are coming into this tactical fitness world aren't necessarily runners yet. So you got to treat them like a beginner runner, and you may want to add more non-impact cardio activities to that. I think some of the worst advice I think people can get, especially if you're a non-runner, is to take advice from a running coach. Now, don't get me wrong, they know how to coach runners, right? Coaching a beginner who is not a runner, who may be 20 pounds bigger than their normal runners, athletes, um, are going to be susceptible to shin splints and knee tendonitis and just new runner ailments that a long, slow distance run may not be the best answer for that type of runner or future runner. Does that make sense? So if you're a lean guy, pretty light on your feet, add that long, slow distance run. If you're a new runner, a little bit bigger, susceptible to shin splints, don't waste your runs on long, slow distance stuff. Let's try to work your pace and let's try to add in some walking, maybe even some rucking just to build some durability on those legs before we really start pounding them with running multiple miles every week too soon without a logical progression. How long should I be able to hold treadwater, no hands for Marine Recon? Well, we got a lot of those guys we work with, and we just do a blanket tread for 10 minutes. A 10-minute tread, no hands, multiple kicking methods of scissor kicks, egg beater kicks, breaststroke kick, whatever you feel like. Change it up however you want. We go for 10 minutes, period. And if you can do that, you can do just about any treading in the military, even in the spec ops level military. All right. Question here. 27, used to be great running shape. After enlistment, I fell off pretty hard. Been working on running base for a year now, but it seems like no matter what I do, I can't run harder than 16 minutes for my 2 mile, and it's getting discouraging since I used to be able to run around 13 minutes. Never naturally been a good runner. I think if you've been working on your running base, you just got good at running slow. That's another reason why just doing long, slow distance running will get you good at running slow. And that's an 8-minute mile, um, which is a typical pace for people doing long, slow distance runs. My suggestion would be to take out one or two of those long, slow distance runs and turn it into, 7-minute miles pace in the form of some kind of interval. Maybe it's a 400 meter at 145, or it's a 800 meter at 330. So you are now practicing that 7-minute mile pace. Maybe do it for a mile. See if you can hit a mile in 7 minutes. That's going to get you to 14. And then you do the same thing with 630 mile, which will get you to 13. So it's going to be a progression, just like you progressed in miles for distance. You need to now cut the distance and progress in miles at speed. So something we do is we do 20 miles a week for a pretty decent cycle, and we stay there for about 8 weeks. We don't increase our distance at all, but we are increasing our speed. We are increasing our pace for a 6-minute pace for timed runs, like a mile and a half or 2 mile time runs, or Marine Corps 3 mile time runs. And then we shoot for 7-minute mile pace for our slower runs that are longer. So our 4 to 6 mile runs are at that 7-minute mile pace. So we learn two different paces: 6-minute mile for faster timed runs and 7-minute mile for longer timed runs. Like every week at Buds, 4 mile timed run, 5 mile timed run at Ranger School, just in order to get accepted. It has to be under 40 minutes. We try to shoot for 35. Um, just have plenty of gravy there if you needed it. Then we do the same for the 4 mile timed run, 28 minutes. Whereas the minimum standard in first phase is 32. Yeah, so it's an 8-minute mile pace again. But you don't want to be anywhere near the minimums. You want to be at that 7-minute mile comfort zone. So there you go. Good question. My suggestion is check out that article I just posted, and that's a good 20-mile-a-week run that will take away your long, slow distance runs and turn them into more run with a particular pace purpose. I guess you hear that a lot, but speaking for everyone, we really appreciate you taking time to help us. Oh, no problem, Mikhail. Thanks for saying that. What do you think the best way to get to know some SEAL officers when not part of any academy, ROTC, or military town? Coming from civilian, looking for an OCS slot. Good question. You could do a couple different things. You could visit here in Maryland, as there are many active SEAL officers and former SEAL officers that are here. There are also 100 at least midshipmen that are going to be SEAL officers and going through SOAS with you. In fact, we had 4 OCS candidates that were from here that went through SOAS this summer, and a whole bunch of midshipmen from the academy. But yeah, I mean, Virginia Beach, San Diego, whole bunch of SEAL officers there. But probably the best way to do it is just, I don't know, you're gonna have to be introduced to some, because they're probably not on social media. Former guys would be, but not active duty guys. All right, folks, let's see. I think I got everything here. If I did miss your question, just send them to me. Here's my email address down here at the bottom, stu@stusmith.com. You guys check out stewsmithfitness.com, especially for that latest article. Has some good insight in there, I think, especially for folks who are considering going through selections and worried about the instructor feedback you may receive and how to handle it. You can also, if you want to buy something over at Stu Smith Fitness, you can save 20% using the Compete20 code. And if you need more CSS critique help, check out my new page over at TikTok, Stu Smith 50, same address as my Instagram. And you'll see, well, probably over 100 now videos of me critiquing people's combat swimmer stroke. We got some good ones over there. We also got some bad ones that need help. So could be everywhere in between. Yeah. So it's Thursday. I will be back on Monday and Tuesday of next week. You guys have a good weekend. And until next time, I will see you guys later.